Welcome to the Rock You Podcast for authors, coaches, thought leaders, and speakers. Are you ready to share your message with a bigger audience and create a better world? It's time to see you, be you, rock you. With a goal of helping those who help others succeed. Here are your hosts, Ronnie Tsunami and Benjamin Typhoon Chatsoon.
Aloha, I'm Ronnie Tsunami.
And I'm Benjamin Chatsoon.
Welcome to the Rock You Academy podcast. This Rock You podcast, Ben, I'm excited. Are you excited?
Man, this is a long time coming, man. Yes, first of all, I'm excited. Let me directly answer your question because that's rude if I don't do that. And I'd say like 10 years, I would have never thought I would be here. Like I didn't know you before last year, right? And to see it all come together so quickly, sometimes the time is just right. Like a friend of mine says, I think this is a quote from the Viktor Frankl book. There's no stopping an idea whose time has come. Right?
Yes.
And I can say personally, like when I got into coaching 10 years ago, and I was in the place where I don't think I'm quite good enough to, first of all, make it on my own without a job, right? But also, am I good enough to be even coaching people? I said to my first coach, who am I to have someone's life in my hands? And they were just like, yeah, just don't be so dramatic. Just, be in conversation with them, be in support, ask them some questions and let them answer and see where it goes. But a few years later, along the way, a lot of my friends got into coaching, a lot of my friends. And I saw that after a couple of years of being coaches, they were all still working their jobs. And like, it just became very obvious to me that we had to have something that supported coaches to have enough business so they don't have to do both. They can do what they love instead of what they don't love and only do some of what they do love part-time. And this speaks to the journey of the entrepreneur of having the utmost amount of patience for yourself in the journey. Talking 10 years for this to unfold, for me to be ready, for you to be ready, for it to happen. And things won't happen until they're actually ready. And it's that's the patience just got to be there.
You talk about coaches, and if you're new to Rock You Academy and the Rock You podcast, we work with authors, coaches, thought leaders, and speakers, or what we call ACTS, right? Because if you haven't guessed, we got a Rock You theme, a rock star theme, and and we come on, man, we actually believe that everyone is a rock star.
Everybody is a rock star,
even
if they don't realize it yet.
Exactly.
And
our slogan,
if they don't realize it yet.
Well, our slogan is see you, be you, and rock you. Right? See you being, see everything that you've done. I call it a pipe, or what we call your purpose, your interests, your passions, your experiences. Bring all that in. And I'm so surprised when we talk about this, Ben, how many people don't even count their past experiences. Like they go into coaching and then all of a sudden they're like, well, they go over the past few years. And I ask them, well, tell me more about your whole life. And they're like, well, why? And I go, don't you bring that into your coaching or into your books as an author or when you speak? And they're like, well, yeah, but no one cares about my time when I was a tour guide, when I was a teenager or something. And I'm going, really? And we start to explore that and we find out they're very unique as a personality. And it's part of the whole thing to create a truly someone that stands out and someone that's only you, but we have to know everything about you.
Yeah. I mean, and before I even knew you, I personally, I think it's about whether we have resistance to our past or we're grateful for it. And if you're grateful for something in the business world, you can leverage it. So if our past is working against us because we have resistance to it, we're trying to forget things. Like I was talking about this with someone, I think yesterday. If things end, like relationships or jobs or situations, they probably don't end well most of the time. They end, right? But if things don't end well, we have a tendency to like not look at it again because it was a bad thing. But overall, the most of the time, like example, like I was a technician for the phone company and I got fired It wasn't pretty either. I like my mouth caught up to me, and it was just like, it ended up not being a good situation where they put me, I got into a situation where I lost a career after 12 years. So I understand also what it is with the Great Resignation, to be forced out into the unknown and like figure it out, which is the other reason that we're here, right? Is to support people with that.
Right.
But for a long time, I had resistance to the way it went down. So I never fully embraced and appreciated what I could take from the experience of, because every experience in life, whether it lasts for a long time or lasts for a short time, usually there's some kind of value we can take from the situation and take it with us and add it to our, what you might call our purpose. So for me personally, like, I was an expert troubleshooter on telephone lines. I learned how to really recognize patterns in telephone lines and fix things. So in losing the job for a while, I completely forgot about the skill set. But then as I got into coaching and sales and things like that, I started to see I was able to troubleshoot things like relationships and mindsets and things like that. It's like pinpointing things in my listening and listening to other people talk. So part of the skill set that I took with me that's helped craft my purpose is the actual troubleshooting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you had to bring that out. And like you, I'm actually former IT as well, right? Worked for Microsoft, was a systems engineer by trade, actually worked for the Secretary of Defense as a network engineer. So I have a tech background. And people are like, well, you're into marketing now. You help coaches and speakers and authors and to launch their programs. And I go, yes, but my tech background, my ability to look at things in a particular sequence, right? There's, if this, then this happens. If that happens, then that happens, right? If then statements and so on, all of that experience, and even customer service and dealing with, I'm only called when things break, right? That's the only time people know my name. Yep. Is when things break. That all is part of my history, my personality. And it shocks me how many people that are entering the field as a thought leader only bring in 5 years of their past life. And then when you find out what their background is, you're like, holy crap, like, you should have mentioned.
A lot of great stuff.
I literally talked to a coach who, well, brand new to coaching, was a marketing director, wanted to get into helping people. And then when I talked to her, she turned around and said, oh, yeah, by the way, I have a PhD. And I'm going, excuse me?
You just forgot to mention that one, right?
The PhD in marketing, business. And I said, so you literally are a doctor, like a PhD. You can call yourself a doctor. Whatever. I don't want to mention her name because I mean, ask her permission on this. And she's like, yeah. And I said, you didn't mention, I don't see that in your bio. I didn't ever hear. And I've been with this person in class together with her for like 3 months. And I was like, oh, you have a PhD in marketing and you don't mention this in any of your marketing. She's brilliant. She's amazing, but she didn't feel like anyone would care about that.
Right. It's similar. It's similar to me. I've got in 2002, I graduated college with a bachelor's in electronics. And that has me see electricity / energy, vibration and frequency from a technological approach, rather than say like how most people talk about it, that like how spiritual people tend to talk about it. And there's a gap between their understanding and how it all works. And part of my purpose is bringing all that forward. And this is what I love to do, by the way, for those that don't know me, I see language as a technology. And I love to teach the frequency, vibration, and energy of language from a multi-dimensional approach. And I don't mean like weird stuff like slip in and out of dimensions. I mean more like, what are the dimensions of a table? Length, time, width, time, height, right? Those are 3 dimensions. Like 2 dimensions that we read in are left to right and top to bottom. Those are 2 dimensions. So if I add the 3 more dimensions of frequency, vibration, and energy, you're not talking about 5-dimensional language. So that's just my personal approach and definition to it. But the way that I make frequency, vibration, and energy distinct for people, when I say distinct, it's like if we have an accordion, right? It's all mushed together. and then we start to spread the accordion out, you can start to see the different pieces, and you can say, oh, they are different. Because a lot of people think vibration and frequency, and sometimes even energy, are the same, and they're not. So I have a technological approach, very simple, that I start with to explain what frequency is compared to what vibration is, but also tie it into language so that it makes sense for people. But at the end of the day, it resonates with the spirit.
Right. And that background, looking at things from a whole different view. I mean, that's the beauty of so many different people from different backgrounds and experiences coming to share their knowledge. Because people will say, well, there's so many life coaches out there. There's so many business coaches. There's so many health coaches. Really, is there room for me? And I'll ask them, I go, again, what's your purpose? And then they tell me what their purpose is. Often it's about helping others. It's a typical.
Been there. Totally.
Right? But then I said, well, tell me about your interests. And then what do you mean interests? I said, well, your hobbies, just anything that interests you. And they'll talk about everything from your typical stamp collection hobby person to I'm a salsa dancer to I'm into rocks or I'm into frogs or, they just mention all these different interests. And then I'll say, well, what's your passions? And so, well, what's the difference between a passion and an interest? I said, well, a passion is something that you probably would do 24 hours a day if you could.
Right.
You just totally love this. You're super passionate about it. Sometimes it's about a movement. Like I'm passionate about eating plants, or I'm passionate about social justice, or I'm passionate about sewing, right? I could sew because they just love fashion. They love creating things or art, paintings and composing music. And then I'll say, well, what are your experiences? It's the past, right? Your resume, your job. What are your things you've gone through? I mean, sometimes it could be experience as a child, right? And not just work life. And I say, now tell me, who else has those exact same things? Who has the same purpose?
It's interesting.
Interest, passions, and experiences.
Nobody. That's the point.
And I'm like, wait a minute. You have a totally unique perspective of life. And let's face it, the worst people in life in terms of business end up being business coaches. The worst people in life and personal relationship end up becoming relationship coaches, right? That's the idea, is you learn and you are so passionate about helping others not make the same mistakes you did that you become a coach.
Yeah, the experience, the wisdom. Yeah.
And to me, when you can actually see your whole makeup, your profile, which is again, your purpose, your interests, your passions, experiences, it shows you how different you are from everybody else and why you have something of value out there. And you come on, Ben, imposter syndrome, right? We see this all the time.
Yeah. I mean, well, you're talking about it provides a roadmap to purpose.
Right.
So yeah, imposter syndrome. I'll get me started on imposter syndrome, Ronnie.
Go ahead. I'm getting you started. Ben.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying, and we all deal with it. So, it's funny thing about self-limiting beliefs. I watch a lot of people try to overcome them or get rid of them, and they don't really ever go away. The question is do we listen to them? Do we let them drive the train? Because if you let them drive the train, it'll take it to a very specific destination. There's passengers on the train. You can listen to one voice or the other. So in imposter syndrome, it's and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm no expert on this, right? It's thinking nothing more than I'm not good enough to do the thing that I want to do, but I know I want to help people make an impact. I just don't think I'm good enough to do it. And that not good enough, I mean, it gets into everything. We see people driving not good enough. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough time. The not good enough kind of collective conversation that we all have to deal with. I mean, there's deeper levels to that, which maybe we'll do another time. But it gets onto everything. It gets onto our decision making. If we're making decisions from a place where we're not good enough, we're going to sabotage. Because if we think we're about to lose something because we're not good enough to have it, we'll preempt it and say, push it away.
Right.
Where if we're coming from a place of wholeness and we are more than enough, we're going to say, I deserve this. What can I do to make it better? How can I help? How can I support? Where can I make the improvements? Not like I don't deserve it because I'm not good enough. It's a very tricky fine line. And we all have our journey with it. So the voice, it's kind of like there's radio stations or speakers in the head, and some of the voices are louder than others. And in the beginning, the not good enough is really, really loud until we start to do the work, get some results. As we start to get more frequent results, that starts to change the frequency of what we see. And then we can then say, because I was going through this myself not too long ago, where it's like, I think I'm not good enough to have everything that's going on. But then I have this set of results to refer to over the last 10 years to say, that's not serving me to listen to that. Right. What's serving me is to stay focused on the vision, support my team, and keep going for it, because it's happening and I'm right in the middle of it. And it's amazing to be able to support other people with this stuff, because we all have to deal with it.
And it's a shame when you meet people who have so many great experiences, good and bad, right? So many lessons learned, and want to help others, but stop for any number of reasons. But imposter syndrome would have to be the number one reason for it. In which case, that person's solutions or help never reaches the people that they could have helped because of the imposter syndrome, right? Well, who am I to tell you, Ben, how to improve your business or how to improve your life or improve your health when I suffered through this? Like, why would you listen to me?
You know what's coming up for me as you're talking, because I'm a firm believer in what's called authorship. Excuse me. I'm a firm believer in what's called authorship, how we author our lives with our thoughts and our actions and our words. And like one of the root parts of authorship is authority. So if you're asking the question, who am I to have this, do this, say this? Who are these people to listen to me? You're not coming from authority. You're not being the author. You're being what we might want to call like a victim mindset, you might say, but definitely like disempowered at least. Because if, as you were saying, excuse me, as you were saying, when we work with people and we do the pipes and we lay all this out and we find the framework of their purpose, it shows them the roadmap to who they can be the authority in what areas. Because sometimes when we're looking for like our target audience, we want to talk to the person who we were 10 years ago, because we have every relatable experience to that person's where they're at in their life.
Right.
And we're the authority on who we used to be, which is who they are now. And when you put it all together, like you do with our system, you really start to have more options to relate to people rather than just be a money coach. Well, how about you're a money coach for a guy like me that never had a father around, that never learned about finances, that had all, you know what I mean? So you can literally market to people that grew up with a single mom, that never really got trained on or taught smart things in finance. Like you can start to craft your message even and refine it even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all the people that we've talked to over the years, and I've been in training and education for 28 years, believe it or not. So I still catches my throat.
By the way, everybody, Ronnie was 3 years old when he started.
That whole belief system that you're not good enough, that you don't have enough experiences, or that you failed so much that you really have no right to say anything to somebody else. It's like, who am I to tell you when I've made these mistakes? And yet, if you don't share your knowledge, to my original point, then the people that need your help never hear it.
Right.
And more people go through that. I said, you have an opportunity to help someone through pain that in some cases kills them. Like, you know how many people have killed themselves, for instance, they've committed suicide because they felt so depressed, felt like there was no hope.
I've known it for the last couple of years. Actually, it's
just really, these past few years.
Yep.
No hope. And I think that's why you and I, when we connected to create Rock You Academy, we were so we were driven to having seen the impact of not sharing your wisdom, of not providing hope.
Well, I can say, I'll speak personally, right? I can say the last few years has been a combination of things between with the work that I want to bring to the world, which it'll be worked into what we're doing, right?
Right.
With language, like the vibration of language and things like that's really what one of my purposes is, to bring that information forth and share it with people. Okay. But I can tell you, between wanting to, one, not just share what I was seeing as far as what I was discovering in language, but actually apply it to my own life and make sure that what I was seeing was actually usable and not just, oh, look at that. Look at the way the words, right? I wanted to actually apply it to my own life before I brought it mainstream, because you really, with something like that, I wanted it to be more in alignment with me and not just this conceptual thing, right? But also in the background there, which runs underneath all that, because that's the conscious stuff, right? I'm like, let me prove it. But if I had the not good enough imposter syndrome, I call it background conversation, if I had that in check, would all this have unfolded faster?
Right.
As
the journey, it's part of the journey.
As the author of my experiences are authored from the narratives that are running in the background, both consciously and unconsciously. We tell ourselves, like, and this is where patience is really powerful, but I watch people do this all the time. Oh, it happened for a reason. Yes. And it's up to you to actually have the ability to recognize what that reason is by doing your best, which is one of the 4 agreements. Not just saying, like, throwing it up to spirit, throwing it up to God, that kind of thing, and say, oh, it happens for a reason. I just got to, and this is where I see people fall off with that, is recognizing what's actually running in the background that's having it take so long. That's really, like, because it can happen like this. When you identify the narrative and the root stuff that's going on, like, it's almost like computer code. The computer code that runs in the background produces what's up on the screen, right? So we have to identify what's going on in the code in the background. So for me personally, I do my best to identify this stuff, but I also know that I can suffer, like anybody else, from the imposter syndrome, not good enough narrative. So was my journey hindered because I didn't let go of it soon enough, or I don't let go of it and it gets in there and prolongs the journey? Maybe I could go that direction, or I could say it's divine and I wasn't supposed to do it till right now with Ronnie. It's all about the story we make up.
Right. The journey for everyone is different. The lessons we all learn are different, because someone may walk in almost the same journey, but pick out different lessons. And it's this ability to share and collaborate with each other and kind of compare stories, to me, where one would argue that lessons are learning from your failures. As I like to say, if you learn from your mistakes, I'm a freaking genius, right? Because I made a lot of mistakes. And to hear your mistakes as well, or to hear someone else's mistakes, challenges, there are both their wins and their losses, right? Together creates a whole another image, another reality, if you will, for us. But
you're talking about learning from other people's mistakes?
Yes.
That's wisdom. When you can learn from other people's mistakes and not make them yourself, that's true wisdom. That's what you're talking about, right?
And that's the opportunity here. We say in Rock You Academy, we say, see you, be you, rock you. And see you is really what we were just talking about, right? This whole imposter syndrome and overcoming that. See you and all your greatness and all your wisdom that you bring to the table. Now, be you. That be you part is, okay, now that you've seen your wins and your losses, your challenges and your mistakes and your lessons learned from that, now who do you want to be? So the be you part of it is, now what's the person you want to be? Who do you want to help? And then let's help you build it. Let's help you be that person, learn the skills and experiences you need to be the person you want to become, and help you to reach out and help others. As you and I said, we help those who help others. That's the be you. And then the rock you part is, okay, see who you are now or were in the past. Be you, be the person you want to be. And then rock you is get out there and share it with everybody else. The rock you part is get on stage, step into the limelight, as I like to say, or the spotlight.
You know what I love that we're doing though? The whole technological aspect of it. The stages we're setting for people, the channels we're creating, I've been in other programs where it's like, you know, I've bought this because I don't mind spending money on my education. If you're not spending money on your education, you're not going to make mistakes and you're not going to grow. And I'm talking about like, oh, look, that course on Facebook looked really cool. Let me spend $2,500 on that. Oh, that one over there, that one was $5,000. I've been doing that for 15 years, buying programs here and there, going to Vegas, seminars, and doing all kinds of stuff, real estate, just trying everything on, right? What I love that what we're doing is not only are we helping people, I won't say overcome their imposter syndrome. I will say be in relationship with it differently. Because I think limiting beliefs are all about changing our relationship with them, not getting rid of them. Because to remove the resistance to them, you know what I mean? To try and not have something is complete resistance. I'll go in a deeper conversation on that at one point. But trying not to do something or not have something creates this like resistance to the thing rather than embracing it, integrating it, and having it work for you rather than against you. Not only are we doing all that, but we're shortcutting people's success with our systems, which I've not seen anybody else doing. And people have been telling you, as you've been sharing it, nobody else is doing this either.
Right.
So to bring something truly unique and remarkable to the market, that's basically, you might call it a market disruptor, because nobody's really doing, I will give you full credit, man. What you have put together that I'm supporting with, but loving every minute of it. What I learned a few years ago, I had some really great coaches and guides. I feel very grateful and very fortunate for the people that were there at the beginning of my journey. And then some of them are still around. The combination of people that I attracted to me to show me who I could potentially become and be like the guidepost to see, you know what, I need to go in that direction because they make sense to me and they're guiding me. And like, they're not trying to get anything out of me, right? Really powerful mentors, you might say. When I saw that group of mentors really didn't exist for other people that I know. And at least if I can explain that a different way, I feel very fortunate for the combination of people to show up to help me get through the stuff that was not serving me from becoming who I was supposed to be. I worked at it very solidly for like 3-4 years in a coaching community, and the combination of mentors that I had were just so powerful, so like aware, and I was so unaware of how I was showing up in life that was creating the messes and the situations and the broken relationships. I didn't get it. I thought it was always somebody else's fault, you know, be a victim, that kind of thing, until I started to really own my stuff and my accountability. But I also know in the same aspect, that combination doesn't exist for other people a lot of the times. So in my journey, I realized out of compassion for that situation that I really want to be able to shortcut people's learning curve with this stuff, not only up here, but also the technological aspect. Because I've done digital marketing too and lead generation. I've done all that stuff too. But here we are, we're kind of putting it all together because it's all part of the journey, right?
Right.
But because I know that I'm very fortunate to have the guides that I had that not everybody is going to have, that we have to create shortcuts. And sometimes we're just going to boost people into success. I feel like that's what we're doing here at Rock You Academy.
I agree. And there's a lot at stake if we don't get them boosted, right? There's so many people that suffer, as I mentioned earlier, when the knowledge, the experiences, the lessons learned right there, someone could have shared it. And I'll tell more about my story as we go on over the next few podcasts. But when I couldn't walk or see in 2015 due to a health illness, and end up finding out and watching some videos from coaches and speakers and authors and healed myself, I was very pissed because I had asked the doctor, how come you didn't tell me about this? And he said, well, I didn't think you could do it. He didn't give me a chance. And I found out right through, and just everyone knows, I changed my eating habits, my lifestyle. I eat more veggies, right? But no one said that to me. No one said, hey, by the way, your illness may be caused because of this. I ended up finding out on my own when I was just about to call it quits. When I said, you know what, I can't live like this. I can't see or walk well. Let's just maybe end it now. Okay. If I hadn't come across that knowledge, if someone hadn't shared with me a video, then I could be in a completely different place, or I could not be here at all. That could have been the outcome. And that's why we're so passionate about what we do. When we say rock you, it's not called rock your life. It's called rock you. And we chose that specifically because you have the ability to reshape your life and to reshape and help others to succeed. Rock you. And over the next few podcasts, not just over the next few, the whole goal of our podcast is to share those stories and those journeys of other, again, authors and coaches, thought leaders, speakers who have been through those trials and tribulations and have something to share and want to reach more people. We want to help them. And we want to help motivate the listeners here, not just end users to improve their life, but people who want to be those thought leaders. Again, those authors, coaches, thought leaders, and speakers to get their message out to more people, to get their, not just their solutions, but to get their hope out there. Inspiration, motivation, and hope. Three biggest things I think we do. And as you mentioned earlier, you alluded to the marketing and technology piece, right? That we help people through. We're like, listen, if the marketing and technology piece is the one thing stopping you from spreading your message, from sharing your solutions, your hope and inspiration and motivation with others to save literally lives, all right, we'll help. It's like, okay.
Yeah, you're touching on something that's really powerful, because what I'm seeing is a massive realignment of people coming home to who they are through being in a relationship with people that can relate to their situations and lift them up. It's like a massive realignment of like the cells coming back into alignment of the overall organism, which is made up of everybody on the planet. And we've had a lot of disruption in the last couple of years, 3 years. It's been a lot. We'll go longer than that. We'll go back 6 years, right? There's been a lot that's come up, like perturbed. I would say, like, like when you have an hourglass and you flip it over, right? Everything reorganizes. The shape stays the same, but everything on the inside moves around and realigns. I think what we're actually seeing is a massive realignment coming back into alignment with who we are, with who we've forgotten that we are. But remembering that through working with people that really get our situations.
I really like that analogy of the hourglass and everything shifting around, and that realignment to who we really are, or our true selves, knowing and kind of coming back to what matters most to us. And that varies from person to person. We're reevaluating what matters most to us, whether it's work and the career, ladder, or it's family, or it's the personal development side of us. We see more people going, quote, woo, right? Because they're seeing this as a spiritual alignment of what their purpose in life is. And so if anything, this is a time with all those grains of sand shifting in the hourglass.
Yes.
Who's creating that shape? Who's holding those grains of sand? And I think every coach, every author, coach, and thought leader and speaker has an opportunity to help shape that hourglass.
100%. 100%.
So
if they own it.
If they own it. And that's what we're going to bring. So if you're listening and you are an author, coach, thought leader, speaker, this is for you. This whole podcast, we're going to be sharing a number of stories about people helping others. And we're going to be sharing a number of stories of people facing challenges and how they popped out of those challenges and how it shaped them to essentially rethink their lives and how they help others now.
And like, we've all been there. We all go there from time to time. It's about turning up the frequencies that are in service to your fellow humans, the people right around you, turning the black hole into a vortex. The black hole, instead of sucking everything in, the vortex pushes it out, having a positive effect on the environment around us rather than a negative effect. And that not always easy, but can be very challenging and also very rewarding at the same time, because the breakthroughs are so powerful when we're committed to having them.
Agreed. All righty, Ben, you ready for this journey?
Oh,
this is
Ronnie,
a new journey for us.
I was born without a father ready. Yes. No, that's not,
right.
let me say, like, I didn't know let's so we're clear. I just never knew my father. Of course I had a father, right? Just wasn't around. That's all. And like, it speaks to the that's part of the purpose that we'll speak to in another time. But we have all kinds of things that happen to us in life that we had no control over. But it's our relationship to the thing, the story that we weave about it, that has us imprisoned or sets us free, which we'll talk more about on another episode.
Ben, if you don't mind, just tell me this. What is your goal in this podcast? What do you want to see happen?
Illumination. I want to see. I've listened to a lot of people's podcasts. I don't listen to that many people's podcasts, but I've heard different formats and things like that. I really would like to have a podcast that is just, it ascends and transcends the industry and what the industry is actually offering to people through these podcasts. Because I'm clear that what you're doing, what I'm doing, and what we're doing together is stellar. When I say stellar, it's like the highest possible result you can imagine. The stars in the sky is what we're aimed at. And I don't know that I see that with everybody. I see a lot of people doing podcasts because they're supposed to do a podcast, because that's the trend, that's the industry, and it's part of their brand. I want to do a podcast to light up the world. I want to do multiple podcasts to light up the world and have people break free from darkness.
Me too. My goal for this podcast is to make sure that no one feels like they have nothing else. No one feels like they have nothing to share. Not only we're going to help you to realize that, but we're going to help you to share it, and we're going to help you to reach other people, more people, and we're going to help you to inspire and motivate those people. We call that the Tsunami Effect. All right, one wave built upon another wave, built upon another wave. And that's what my wish is, my dream, my goal is that the Rock You podcast helps to inspire and motivate others to help inspire and motivate others.
And have a lot of fun doing it.
Of course. That's why we didn't say the boring you. It's called the Rock You podcast. Are you ready?
Listen, man, it's really important. Like guys, anybody who's hearing this, if you don't have fun while you're doing it, it is not worth it. If it's not fun, then you bring the playground with you. Make it fun.
Exactly.
Play with it, right?
All right, guys. Take care. Ronnie Tsunami here. Aloha.
Benjamin Chatsoon. Guys, be well. We'll speak to you on the next one.
Ben, before, hold up.
Huh?
What is your? We said if my name is Ronnie Tsunami.
Oh, you want to test it out?
You gotta just use it. This is the first one. Use it.
All right. So Typhoon, Chatsoon. Right? Is that what you want?
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
We got
Typhoon.
Ben. Typhoon,
all right. So it's official. Just call me Typhoon from here moving forward.
All right.
It's only because I need as cool a name as Ronnie on the stage.
Hey.
But
Typhoon and Tsunami. All right.
Yeah. Rock and roll, man. I love that.